The studio of the Kelly Clarkson Show glowed with its usual warmth, soft amber lights, pastel backdrops, the gentle hum of music filling the air as the audience settled into their seats. Everything about the space felt welcoming, almost cozy, like a place where laughter came easily and tension never lasted long. Producers moved smoothly across the floor, whispering cues into headsets, adjusting microphones, smiling at guests as if nothing could possibly go wrong. It was a well-oiled machine, designed to make every moment feel light, safe, and friendly. Backstage, Sylvester Stallone stood quietly near the curtain, his broad shoulders straight, his expression calm but distant. He wore a dark blazer over a simple black shirt, hands clasped loosely in front of him. To most people, he looked unshakable, legendary, solid, composed. The kind of man who had played warriors, fighters, and survivors for decades without breaking a sweat. But those closest to him could tell something was different tonight. His jaw was tight. His eyes were focused, serious, thoughtful. Not angry, yet, but guarded, like someone bracing for something they couldn't quite predict. A producer approached with a bright smile. "You're on in 30 seconds, Mr. Stallone." He nodded once. "Got it." The crowd roared as Kelly Clarkson's voice rang out across the studio. "Please welcome the one and only, Sylvester Stallone." The curtains parted, and the energy exploded. Applause thundered through the room. Some people stood. Phones lifted into the air. Stallone stepped forward into the lights, the familiar face, the legendary presence, the unmistakable silhouette of a man who had shaped generations of cinema. He lifted a hand in acknowledgement, a small smile forming as he walked toward Kelly. Kelly met him center stage with her trademark warmth, arms open. "Sylvester Stallone, everybody," she said, laughing as she hugged him. "This is surreal for me." He smiled politely. "Good to be here." They Saturday. The audience settled. The cameras rolled. Everything felt smooth, natural, effortless, exactly how a daytime talk show interview should feel. At first, the conversation flowed easily. They talked about his career, his iconic roles, the legacy of characters that had become cultural symbols. Stallone spoke calmly, thoughtfully, with quiet pride but no arrogance. The audience listened closely, laughing at his dry humor, clapping at familiar references. Kelly leaned in, engaged, smiling, nodding, clearly enjoying the moment. Then the tone began to shift. Kelly leaned forward slightly, her voice still friendly but more curious. "You've played these tough, emotional characters for decades. Fighters, soldiers, underdogs. But recently, there's been a lot of talk about your personal life shaping those roles more than people realized." Stallone's expression changed, just subtly. A small pause. A blink. "What do you mean?" "Well," she said gently, "some interviews suggest that a lot of your pain, your struggles, your family experiences, especially difficult ones, directly influenced your performances. People feel like those roles were almost confessions, not just acting." There was nothing harsh in her tone. No accusation. Just curiosity. But something about the framing landed wrong. Stallone leaned back slightly in his chair. "Every actor brings their life into their work," he said calmly. "That's not new." Kelly nodded. "True. But some people say you were carrying things you never really talked about. Regrets. Conflicts. Mistakes. Things you didn't heal from." The audience grew quieter, sensing a change in energy. The playful warmth in the room softened into something more tense, more focused. Stallone's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in caution. "That's a broad statement." Kelly hesitated, then continued. "There's this narrative that you built this image of strength, but behind it, there was a lot of unresolved pain. That you didn't always handle personal relationships well, and it affected the people around you." A few audience members shifted in their seats. For the first time, Stallone's smile disappeared completely. He took a breath. Slow. Controlled. "Whose narrative is that?" Kelly opened her hand slightly. "I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying it's something people talk about. Fans, critics, even people close to the industry." The silence grew heavier. The kind of silence that feels loud. Stallone leaned forward now, resting his forearms on his knees. His voice stayed low, steady, but the warmth was gone. "There's a difference between curiosity and judgment." Kelly's smile tightened. "I'm not judging you, I promise. I just think people are fascinated by the human side of legends." He looked at her directly. "Legends are human. But they're also allowed to have boundaries." A murmur rippled through the audience. Kelly shifted in her chair, sensing the tension. Of course. Sometimes vulnerability helps people connect more. Stallone's eyes hardened slightly. Vulnerability isn't something you demand from someone. It's something they choose. The air in the studio felt different now. Heavier. Thicker. The easy laughter from earlier felt like it belonged to another show entirely. Kelly tried to soften it. I don't mean to push. I just think your story could help people. He exhaled through his nose. My story isn't public property just because I'm famous. The words were calm, but the message was sharp. The audience was silent now. No clapping, no laughter, no murmurs. Just stillness. Kelly nodded slowly, trying to recover the mood. Okay. Fair enough. Let's switch gears. But something had already shifted. The invisible line had been crossed. Stallone leaned back, his posture stiff, his expression controlled but clearly closed off. The warmth between them was gone, replaced by a quiet tension that cameras couldn't hide. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The show lights still glowed. The music bed waited. The audience waited. And in that silence, it became clear that this wasn't just an awkward moment. It was the beginning of something much bigger, something that wasn't going to fade with a quick joke or a commercial break. This was the moment where the conversation stopped being an interview and started becoming a confrontation. The silence lingered longer than it should have. Kelly shifted in her chair, forcing a soft smile as if one more friendly expression might reset the entire room. The band's quiet background music tried to slip in gently, but the tension was too thick to dissolve that easily. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to clap, laugh, or stay silent. Cameras kept rolling, red lights glowing, capturing every breath, every micro-expression, every uncomfortable second. Kelly cleared her throat. So, you're working on some new projects, right? She asked lightly, trying to steer the conversation back into safe territory. Stallone nodded once, but his body language said everything. His shoulders were rigid. His jaw was tight. His eyes no longer held warmth, only distance. Yeah, he said simply. She tried again. You've always stayed busy. Always building something new. That work ethic is incredible. Work is easy, he replied flatly. Life is harder. The words weren't loud. They weren't dramatic. But they landed like a weight. The audience felt it. A ripple of discomfort passed through the room. This wasn't banter anymore. This wasn't a celebrity interview. It felt like something personal had been pulled into the open under bright studio lights. Kelly hesitated, then spoke more carefully. I didn't mean to cross a line earlier. Stallone looked at her for a long moment before answering. Maybe you didn't mean to. But you did. Her expression softened. That wasn't my intention. I know, he said. But intentions don't erase impact. The room was silent again. He shifted in his seat, running a hand slowly over his face, like someone trying to regain control of their emotions. I've spent my whole life being a character to the world, he continued quietly. People think they know me because they know Rocky. They know Rambo. They know the tough guy image. But they don't know the man behind it. Kelly nodded slowly, listening now instead of guiding. There are parts of my life I've fought hard to keep private, he said. Not because I'm ashamed, but because they belong to me. To my family. Not to headlines. Not to interviews. Not to an audience. His voice stayed calm, but there was a tremor under it, controlled emotion, tightly held back. Kelly spoke softly. I respect that. Then respect it, he replied. Not harsh. Not shouting. But firm. The words hung in the air. The band stopped playing completely. No one moved. Kelly shifted again, clearly uncomfortable. I think sometimes talk shows forget where the line is, she admitted quietly. We try to connect, but we don't always realize when we are pushing. Stallone looked away for a second, then back at her. Exactly. Another pause. Then he did something unexpected. He stood up. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Just slowly, deliberately, like someone making a calm but final decision. The audience gasped softly. Kelly's eyes widened. Sylvester. He raised a hand gently. This isn't a scene. This isn't a stunt. I just don't want to keep talking about things that don't belong to the public. She stood too. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I know, he said again, his voice low. But I am. For a moment, they stood there, Two people under studio lights, surrounded by cameras, crew, and a silent audience. He looked at her with a mix of respect and firmness. You run a great show. You really.